So, welcome to geometry. Here's your first day. I apologize that I am not there, but what you're going to do is you are going to get into table groups. So basically, where you are sitting, this is your group. The rainbows are with the rainbow. So if you are the group of 4, everybody should be in a group of 3 or 4. The rainbows are connected. Those are your groups. If you are in the back with the tall tables, you are in a group if you are 4 of you. The 2 tables connected. Now, what you are going to do is you are going to do this bell ringer. Once I say go, you may start with your group discussing how to do this. So step 1, redraw the picture on your white book. So instead of white book, go ahead and get a piece of paper out so you can draw on it. Okay, if you'd like a whiteboard or something, you can do that, but draw it out. Then I want your group to answer how many squares are in the picture and how many corners are in the shape. So I'm going to pause the video and I'm going to let the sub go ahead, pause the video, and let you guys work and figure this out, and then I'll go over it. Alright, so how many squares are in this shape? Well, let's look at it. We are not rectangles. Squares are not rectangles. Did we know that? Yeah, squares are, all sides have to be the same. So if I'm looking, I have the big square round, right? And I have this square, that square, these little baby squares, and then the one whole square. So altogether there are 9 squares. Okay? Then if we go into how many corners, well, count the corners. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18 corners. Okay. Alright, now let's do a little bit of a lesson on stuff. So first, we're going to talk about segments, points, planes, and coplanar. Now, step 1, label the cube. So I'm going to label it A, B, C, D, then write down, I'm going to go E, F, G, H. You label all the points, okay? So that's what you're labeling, is all those points. Label a segment. Alright, so this is where it gets sticky. A segment is a line, basically. Well, it's not a line, so be careful because a segment and a line are different. A segment is a point to a point. So here, this point A to this point B is a segment. So A, B. Another segment, E, F. But something's missing because if I say A, B, or E, F, that doesn't really sound like a segment. Like it's just 2 letters. Great. Awesome. You need to add a line over top. That represents that it is segment AB or segment EF. Okay? A point. So one-dimensional, right? It's one-dimensional. Okay. Now a point is, I kind of already said it, right? A, so it's an uppercase letter, and A would be 1, B would be 1, C would be 1. It's where they all meet up at a point, okay? D, E, F, G, they would all be 1 separately, not just together, okay? Label a plane. A plane becomes 3-dimensional, or 2-dimensional, sorry, 2-dimensional. Okay, a plane. So you can label a plane by, if it has a, we'll get there, but on this, you can label a plane by 3 non-collinear points, and we'll go over collinear here in a little bit. So an example of a plane would be, okay, I'm going to talk about this plane up top. So A, D, E, H, that would be plane, A, D, E, H, okay? You could say plane, H, E, F, H, E, F. Okay. Label 3 points that are coplanar. What coplanar means means they're on the same plane. So if we're looking at this plane here, that pink and green plane, A, B is on that plane, and C is on that plane. You can see E is not up here. E is not on that plane. So that is not a coplanar point. Okay? but ABC or ABD or ADC, those are all on that same plane. Okay? Alright, so here's your guys' task. You're going to do the same thing with your group. You can get a piece of paper, or if you'd like a whiteboard, that is fine. And you're going to name the rest of the segments, points, and planes. So I'm going to go back to that picture. You're going to draw this picture. So draw that picture, and then you're going to name the rest of the segments, points, and planes on there. So I did a few of them. And then you're going to draw, so task 2, draw and label your own two-dimensional picture. So you're going to make your own picture. So here's an example. Make sure you're labeling it. And then name all segments, points, and planes within that picture. And then you're going to do the same thing, but with a three-dimensional picture. So I'm really good with cubes. You make whatever three-dimensional picture you want and do the same thing. So you're going to label it, put all the letters on the points, right? And then you're going to name all segments, points, planes, and then you're going to do that with the 3D picture. So step 1, go back to this picture, use the letters, and go ahead and do that. And then go on to step 2 and 3. Okay. Alright, pause the video. Give them about probably 5-10 minutes depending on that. Alright, so my favorite two-dimensional shape, well actually, maybe not my favorite, it's probably this one, you know, it's just the easiest. So name all the segments, so A, B, make sure you don't forget that segment line, B, C, don't forget that segment line, and C, A. Okay, those are all the segments. Now if I go points, right, points, C, A, or B, those are all points. And then planes, there's only one plane. It's ABC. Plane ABC. Okay, now your three-dimensional shape, you could have drawn whatever your heart desired. Some people may have drawn something like this. Some people maybe draw, and you do the same thing. Okay? Alright. Oops. Lines, rays, collinear. So I'm going to skip this for you guys. We're going to define vocabulary in your own words. So from what you just learned, what we just did, can you tell me what a point was? What's a line? What's a segment, ray, plane, collinear, coplanar? Can you remember what these meant? Last year, perpendicular, parallel, bisecting, midpoint. So pause the video. Let them go ahead and try to identify them. Okay, I am going to talk about a few of them. These will all be reviewed in the notes, but I am going to touch base. Perpendicular, two lines that make a right angle, right? Parallel, two lines that never touch because they have the same slope, if you remembered. Bisecting is where they cut in half, so this would be the same as this. Okay. Oops, nope, can't have lines. Okay. Midpoint is the middle of a line. So if you have a line or a segment of a segment, the midpoint is that middle piece right there. That's the midpoint. Okay. All right, let's go to the actual notes. So this is where the notes need to be handed out for the teacher to do. So pause the video, make sure all the students have the notes, and we will get started. Okay. So today, the learning intention, I'm going to type this for you so it's nice and neat. I will learn the terminology of points, segments, lines, rays, planes, angles, collinear, and coplanar points. Alright, please make sure you have that written down on your notes page. Okay, this is part of participation. Just like before, make sure you're filling out everything and make sure you're actively engaged in the lesson. All right, so let's do some definition. Let's define some things. So a point. What is a point? A point is a location. It has no size or shape. It has no size or shape. It's what a point is. Okay? Now, when I'm naming a point, how did we name the points earlier? We just named it with a capital letter. So let's look over here. Pick a point. All right, I'm going to put point K. That's a point. Point A is a point. Point G is a point. Okay? There's so many ways. So many points on that picture to the right. All right, let's talk about a segment. A segment is a part of a line consisting of two endpoints. Okay, so it doesn't go on forever. It has to have an endpoint. How do we name a segment? We kind of talked about this. It is two capital letters, which are the endpoints. So two capital letters, which are endpoints, or two capital endpoints. Okay. So an example, make sure if it has, so if we're just talking from here, here to here, and that's your segment would be H, F, but do not forget to put the line over top. You are wrong if you do not. An example also would be C, D, C to D, okay? All right, let's go to array. So array is a little different. Array is a part of a line that has one endpoint and goes infinitely in one direction. Oops, one direction, sorry. Give you a second to write that down. So unlike a segment, it's not endpoint to endpoint. It doesn't just stop to stop. It actually goes from an endpoint on forever. So an example would be you have to have, so the things you have to have is, again, a capital endpoint, and a point on the line. Okay, so example. C, D is an example. That is an example. But I'm going to do CE. It doesn't matter. CD, CE. But the big thing is over top, instead of just a line, you put C was the endpoint and the arrow going on is E. So if you would have put EC, I would say, nope, that's not right. Because C is the starting point and it goes till E. It goes on forever towards E. So BA would be one as long as you put B going to A. AB would be one because it has an arrow going this way. But the biggest thing is one way is an arrow. One way is a point. That is a ray. It's just a one-way arrow. Okay. If AB and BA, can AB and BA be the same ray? So I kind of just talked about this. No, they cannot. They are not the same. No, they do not share the same endpoint. They aren't even going in the same direction, so that's not going to work. All right, let's talk about a line. A line is an infinite amount of points going in both directions. Which we should kind of know that because it goes on forever. Every time you drew a line last year, you should have had to put arrows at the end of it. Okay? There's a couple ways of naming it. One way is a cursive lowercase letter. So, example, look for a lowercase cursive letter, but really look for the line that's attached. This would be the line, so T would be a line T with the cursive. Line T would be an example. Okay, another way, 2 capital points. So going back to that line T, you could do HG or HF, but the big thing for a line has to go both ways, so you put arrows on both ways. So ray, endpoint, arrow. Segment, endpoint, endpoint, and a line is both ways. Another example, HG, so you could do HF, going both ways. You could do AB. Okay, these are just examples, and you could go on forever. But you cannot do CE. This is a no-go because you see how this doesn't have an arrow at the end over here? This not having an arrow is a problem. Okay? Alright. Collinear. So let's talk more about lines still. So collinear. Collinear means points on the same line. So I think like co-ed, it means both, right? It means boys and girls. So collinear means they share the line. They're on the same line. So examples, they have to be on the same line. So we know line T works. So H, G, and F, those are collinear points. Another collinear, A, L, and B are collinear. They're on the same line. Non-collinear example, well, you could do CDE because that's not a line, but you could, so that would not work. ACE, that would not work, so ACE, those are not collinear because A is here, C is here, E is here. Those are not on the same line. You can see that pretty clearly. So collinear, same line. Non-collinear, not the same line. Alright, let's talk about planes now. So planes are two-dimensional. It is a flat surface that extends forever. Okay? It's a flat surface that extends forever. So, naming a plane. There are two ways to name a plane. Capital, cursive, letter in corner. So looking at these planes, you see how there's this M here or this Q here. So plane Q or plane M, those would work. Okay. Another way is 3, and this is important, non-collinear. So they cannot be on the same line. To label it, non-collinear points within the plane. Example, so I couldn't say HGF, but I could say, so if I'm looking at this blue green one, I could say HAG because A is not on that line. I could also say with the blue one, I could say DKE. Those are options, okay? Coplanar is just like collinear. Coplanar, except coplanar is talking about a plane. So points, coplanar, points that lie in the same plane. Wow, coplanar and collinear, very, very similar thoughts, okay? Alright, let's name them. So naming. So naming coplanar, same as points. It's the same as points. Kind of did that earlier. An example, so all of these would be okay. H, G, F, H, G, F are all on there. A, L, B are all on there. Okay. You could go the other and say A, L, B, C, D, E, K. But non-coplanar example would be like C and S. C is over here. S is like not on that plane. You can see it's not on that plane. Okay. Or you can even say D and G. One's on the blue plane, one's on the green plane. It's not the same plane. Okay? Alright. So, what I need you to do now is I'm going to give you the rest of the hour, which is quite a bit of time. This only took 20 minutes, well, probably more because you paused in the video and stuff. But I'm going to give you time to go ahead and do the back problems on your worksheet. Number 5. Number 5 is going to be the one that's going to probably confuse you a little bit. Number 4 is talking about drawing the things. So draw line AC. And it's intersected by a segment. So then you have to draw the intersection of LM. And then you're going to have to draw it inside plane Q. And then DPS are collinear, so those 3 points have to be on the same line. And coplanar, so they're also on the same plane. And the plane is Q, but point E is non-coplanar, so point E is somewhere else. Okay? Now number 5, using fewest points, number of points in line segments as possible. Draw your first name. You guys can work together on these, but you have to, like, you're going to do your own first name. So if I was doing mine, maybe, I'm going to do a shorter. So, C-H. I'm just going to do 3 letters. Okay, and so what I would do is use the fewer points, okay, line segments as possible. That's all I can do. Draw your first name in capital letters. There you go. Label each point with a different letter. So A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, and you keep going for your letter. Okay, then mark any line segments that are congruent. So congruent, we didn't really talk much about congruency and stuff, but congruent, what it means is it's the same. So if this is actually an H, this line segment should be the same as this line segment. Again, this line segment should be the same as this line segment. Also, if you did it right, so this line segment, this line, these 4 should all be the same, really. But if you did it right, a C, these should be the same. Okay, so tick marks. We're going to talk more about tick marks next class period, so if you miss a little bit of that, but mark the congruent. Then what I want you to do to finish it off, to make sure you've watched this whole video, is I want you to write how many letters you use. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So 10 letters. And then I want you to tell me how many points off that. So if there's 10 letters, how many points did I have? Okay, and I need you to think a little bit, and if you have questions, please ask the sub, or ask a partner, or ask around, but you have the rest of the hour to work on this worksheet, and then, yeah, that is Geometry 1-1 starting off. Have a great day.